Think like wealth, become what you're trying to attract. Written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. Stand still. Now try to chase your shadow. That's what most people are doing with wealth. They sprint after success, gripping strategies and affirmations like survival gear. They burn out trying to manifest, while drowning in anxiety. But the truth is, you can't catch something that responds to who you are, not just what you do. Wealth isn't a finish line. It's not even a goal. It's a frequency, a mental, emotional, and energetic posture. When you tune yourself to it, you don't find wealth. Wealth finds you. The uncomfortable truth? Most people are tuned to scarcity. And identity always wins. If you see yourself as someone without, you'll act like someone without. Even with opportunity in front of you, you'll sabotage it, quietly, habitually, unconsciously. As Lisa Nichols once said, abundance is not something we acquire. It's something we tune into. This book is about that tuning. It's not another guide to hustle or a parade of millionaire habits. You've seen those. They don't work when your identity is stuck in survival mode. This book goes deeper, to the level where thoughts become beliefs, beliefs become patterns, and patterns become your life. You won't need to become someone else. You'll need to become who you were before the world convinced you that you lack something. Each chapter is a mirror, not a manual. You won't just learn how to attract wealth. You'll remember that wealth was waiting for you to become it. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Magnet Principle. A magnet doesn't chase. It doesn't sweat, hustle, or plead. It simply is, and because of what it is, it draws things into its field. Now imagine replacing the magnet with your identity. Imagine wealth isn't something you run after, but something drawn to the strength of who you are being in this moment. Most people are trying to attract wealth while thinking like scarcity. That's why they grind harder, jump from strategy to strategy, and still feel stuck. They chase money like a dog chasing cars, frenetic, confused, and unsure what to do once they catch it. The problem isn't their ambition. The problem is their frequency. At any moment you're broadcasting who you are through your actions, decisions, energy, and even silence. People feel it. Opportunities respond to it. But if what you're sending out is fear, desperation, or self-doubt masked as motivation, you're repelling exactly what you claim to want. This is why someone can make 6 figures and still feel broke. Why someone else can lose everything and rebuild quickly. It's not about circumstance, it's about internal alignment. Wealth, like a metal drawn to magnetism, is responsive to identity. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research shows that our brains and bodies don't wait for outer change to feel different. They respond to inner decisions first. When you begin to think like wealth, not wish for it, but operate from it, you alter the energetic field around you. Your habits shift. Your posture changes. The kinds of people and decisions you attract evolve. This isn't metaphysics. It's alignment. Your subconscious mind is always looking to prove you right. If you believe you're someone who struggles, you'll unconsciously make decisions that validate that belief, undercharging your value, delaying action, procrastinating when clarity is needed most. But if you believe you're a person of wealth, calm, clear, deliberate, your nervous system shifts. You begin to make decisions that match the life you haven't yet lived. And those decisions compound. The magnet principle isn't about pretending. It's about pre-deciding. You act as if, not to fake it, but to become it. That's the beginning of attraction. Think about it. Would the wealthiest version of you say yes to that draining client? Would they ignore their boundaries, skip their morning discipline, or hesitate to invest in growth? Of course not. Then why are you? Wealth isn't looking for someone who's ready someday. It responds to who you're being today. And if that identity is rooted in lack, even dressed up in positive affirmations, it will show. There's a reason the richest people in the world often say money was never the point. It's not that they don't value it. It's that they became someone valuable first. Wealth followed. The shift starts here. Stop asking how to get rich. Start asking how the wealthiest version of you thinks, chooses, and leads. Then become that. Because when you operate like a magnet, you don't beg. You become. Wealth responds to identity, not effort alone. Thinking like wealth means operating from abundance before external proof. Alignment attracts. Desperation repels. What decision have you been delaying because your current identity doesn't feel ready yet? Today, act on one decision your wealthiest self would make, no matter how small. Let that be your new default. Chapter 2: Identity is the root of reality. An oak tree begins as an acorn. Not a mimic of a tree. Not a hopeful imposter. An actual tree in seed form, encoded with everything it needs to become what it already is. That's identity. The reason most people fail to attract wealth isn't lack of knowledge or effort. It's that their root identity doesn't support the reality they're trying to create. They try to grow branches of abundance from the soil of scarcity. But what's planted in the subconscious eventually shows up in the bank account. Your identity is the thermostat of your life. It doesn't just influence behavior, it regulates it. You might spike in motivation or dip into fear, but eventually, your identity pulls you back to its set point. Someone who believes they're average will unconsciously shrink in rooms of opportunity, even if their resume screams potential. Someone who knows they're valuable walks differently, speaks with clarity, and draws respect without demanding it. This isn't ego. It's alignment. If you don't shift who you believe yourself to be, no strategy will stick. You'll always revert. That's why you can follow every productivity hack, read every financial book, and still sabotage the breakthrough. Because actions may start the change, but identity sustains it. Here's the paradox. Most people wait for results to give them permission to believe something new. But that's reverse engineering. It's like waiting to feel strong before you ever lift a weight. The transformation doesn't start after success, it begins the moment you choose a new internal standard. Neuroscience backs this. Studies in behavioral change show that identity-based habits, those tied to who you believe you are far more sustainable than goal-based ones. When someone stops saying, "I'm trying to quit smoking," and starts saying, "I'm not a smoker," the odds of permanent change rise dramatically. Why? Because the root has shifted. The identity has changed. This applies directly to wealth. If you still see yourself as someone who struggles, who just isn't good with money, or who always has to work twice as hard to get half as far, you'll continue manifesting that script. You'll talk yourself out of investments. You'll underprice your value. You'll say yes to low-frequency relationships because they match your self-concept. But change the root, and the fruit changes. When you begin to think like someone who is already wealthy, not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, you rewire what feels normal. You begin to expect ease with responsibility, confidence in risk, peace in the unknown. You stop chasing miracles and start embodying mastery. This doesn't mean pretending to be something you're not. It means recognizing the version of you that's been waiting underneath old stories, cultural programming, and inherited limitations. That identity isn't created, it's remembered. Ask yourself, what would someone who trusts themselves do right now? How would someone operating from a place of overflow handle this challenge? That shift alone will change your behavior, not through force, but through alignment. You're not here to fake wealth. You're here to return to the version of you that never questioned it. Because when identity changes, everything changes. Identity is the thermostat for your reality. It controls what you allow, attract, and sustain. Actions follow beliefs. Change your identity, and behavior shifts naturally. You don't become wealthy by proving something, you become wealthy by remembering who you are. What core belief about yourself has been quietly limiting your ability to receive more? Write one sentence that reflects the identity you're stepping into. Repeat it aloud every time you make a decision today. Let it guide your standard. Chapter 3: Abundance isn't money, it's mentality. A person can win the lottery and still live in fear. Another can lose everything and still feel rich. That's because abundance has never been about how much you have. It's about how much you believe you have access to. The world teaches us that money creates abundance. But that's backwards. Money responds to abundance. not the other way around. And if your mind is trained to see limits, it won't matter how many zeros are in your account, you'll still operate like you're one step from collapse. Scarcity is a lens, not a condition. And abundance is a mindset, not a number. Someone with $100 can donate joyfully because they trust that more will come. Another with $100,000 can hoard every penny, haunted by what if? The difference isn't in their balance, it's in their belief. Research from Harvard's Department of Psychology confirms that our perception of abundance or lack directly affects decision-making. People who perceive scarcity, even if it's artificial, become more reactive, impulsive, and short-term focused. Those who feel secure, even without significant resources, make bolder, more strategic choices. This changes everything. When you think abundance, you no longer treat time like it's slipping away. You move from patience, not panic. You no longer see someone else's success as a threat. You realize there's more than enough room. And here's where it gets radical. True abundance isn't just believing you'll have more. It's knowing that even if you lost it all, you'd rebuild, because the real wealth is within. You stop identifying with your possessions, your titles, your status symbols. Those are just fruit. You are the tree. People sense this shift. You stop negotiating from desperation. You stop saying yes to clients, jobs, or relationships that undercut your worth. You begin to operate with quiet certainty, not arrogance, but assurance. That's abundance. It shows up in how you spend your Saturday. How you listen instead of rushing to respond. How you take breaks without guilt. How you walk into rooms without needing to prove anything. Scarcity screams, I need to show them. Abundance whispers, I already know who I am. This mental shift creates external ripple effects. Abundant thinkers invest in their growth. They're not afraid to hire coaches, attend events, or upgrade their environment, because they don't see those moves as losses. They see them as alignment with their next level. And because of that posture, opportunities respond. It's not magic. It's resonance. You attract what aligns with your energy, your decisions, and your standards. And abundance sets a high standard because it's rooted in self-trust. If you've been waiting for money to feel abundant, reverse the order. Start feeling abundant now, in your language, your body, your routine. That feeling isn't delusion. It's preparation. And preparation is one of the highest signals of belief. You are not chasing wealth. You are preparing to receive it by becoming someone who knows what to do with it. Because when you embody abundance, you don't just get more. You become more. Abundance is a mindset, not a measurement. Scarcity distorts decisions, while abundance expands your options. True wealth begins with trusting your capacity, not your current condition. Where have you been waiting for external proof before choosing to feel secure or empowered? Speak, move, and make one decision today from a place of overflow, not fear. Let that energy lead. Chapter 4: Wealth has a frequency. Are you tuned in? Every radio station broadcasts on a specific frequency. You don't receive the music you want by demanding the station to change. You tune your receiver until the signal comes through clear. Wealth works the same way. It has a frequency. A mental, emotional, and behavioral vibration. You don't beg for it, chase it, or plead with it. You calibrate yourself to it. You match its energy, its discipline, its clarity, and in doing so, you begin to receive everything aligned with that signal. Most people are tuned to survival. That's the static they wake up to. They check their bank accounts like a pulse monitor. They make decisions from anxiety. They undercharge because they're afraid to lose the sale. They stay in misaligned situations because they fear the unknown more than the uncomfortable. And then they wonder why wealth never arrives. But wealth doesn't speak desperation. It doesn't flow to chaos, confusion, or constant emotional noise. It flows to calm, to order, to self-respect. That's the signal you must send. Tuning in is about more than positive thinking. It's about consistency. The way you treat your body, your calendar, your relationships, and your environment, all of it sends a message about the frequency you're on. Psychologist David Hawkins mapped human consciousness on a vibrational scale. Emotions like shame, guilt, and fear operate at low frequencies, energetically heavy, mentally fogging. Emotions like courage, acceptance, and peace operate at higher frequencies, creating openness, clarity, and receptivity. Now ask yourself, which of those emotions do you live in most? Because your emotional home is your frequency. It shapes your posture, your tone, your confidence. And it teaches people, subtly or loudly, how to treat you, pay you, and partner with you. People love to say your vibe attracts your tribe, but it's bigger than that. Your vibe attracts your reality. You don't need perfect circumstances to tune up. You need presence. When you walk into a room and take full ownership of your energy, grounded, clear, unshaken, you change how people respond. You don't force your value. You radiate it. Wealth responds to that. This is why people with lower credentials but higher confidence often surpass those with more experience. They're tuned into belief. They walk into the room like they belong, and the room adjusts. That's not arrogance. That's frequency alignment. Think about your habits. How you start your day. How you respond to uncertainty. What you do when no one's watching. Those are the levers of your frequency. You can't think rich and act rushed. You can't talk wealth and move in worry. Your actions will always expose your station. The good news? Frequencies can be changed. And it doesn't take time, it takes intention. One aligned choice at a time. One confident boundary. One courageous decision. One refusal to lower your signal just to feel safe. Tuning into wealth doesn't mean pretending to be rich. It means acting in a way that says, I trust wealth is already making its way toward me. And that trust shows. You stop panicking. You stop chasing. You start leading. Because the people who attract the most are rarely the loudest in the room. They're the ones whose energy speaks long before they open their mouths. Wealth is a frequency that responds to alignment, not effort alone. Your emotional state broadcasts your internal belief system. Tuning in starts with presence, posture, and consistent intention. What energy do you bring into the spaces you enter, and what does that say about your internal wealth frequency? Choose one behavior today to raise your frequency, whether it's how you speak, walk, rest, or decide. Let it reflect your future, not your fears. Chapter 5: The Scarcity Trap. Scarcity doesn't always look like poverty. Sometimes, it hides behind productivity. Behind perfectionism. Behind the constant need to prove your worth. It's subtle. It whispers, you're falling behind, every time you rest. It tells you to settle for less because, at least it's something. It rewards busyness and punishes stillness. And worst of all, it convinces you that more effort is the only path to more success. This is the trap. The scarcity trap is not just about lacking resources. It's about believing there won't be enough, can't be enough, or that you're not enough to receive it. And once that belief is in place, you build your life around it, choosing urgency over strategy, tolerance over standards, and survival over vision. Think about how it shows up. Saying yes when you mean no. Hoarding time, energy, or ideas because you're afraid they'll run out. Taking on clients who drain you. Accepting pay that insults your value. All of it signals the same frequency. I don't believe more is available. That's not reality. That's conditioning. Studies in behavioral economics reveal that people under perceived scarcity make riskier decisions, often compromising long-term benefits for short-term relief. Why? Because scarcity narrows focus. It shrinks your vision to what's immediately in front of you. You stop thinking expansively. You just try to survive the next hour, bill, or client. But survival is not a strategy for wealth. It's a holding pattern. And until you break it, you'll keep circling the same patterns, no matter how hard you work. The cruel irony is that scarcity creates the very conditions it fears. The person afraid of losing money avoids investing, and as a result, stays stagnant. The person afraid of rejection never asks for the raise, and stays underpaid. The person who fears being overlooked becomes invisible by staying small. Scarcity builds cages. And you decorate them with hustle. Escaping the trap doesn't start with more income. It starts with interrupting the internal narrative that says, "This is all I can get." You challenge that belief by making one different decision, not massive, not reckless, just different. Maybe it's raising your prices, saying no to a draining opportunity, investing in something that doesn't offer instant gratification but stretches your identity. That's the first crack in the scarcity shell. Abundant people aren't fearless. They just don't let fear make their decisions. They trust that space creates room for better. That rejection filters out what isn't aligned. That letting go of, almost, makes space for. Absolutely. They understand this. Anything gained through a scarcity mindset must be maintained by one. And that maintenance becomes exhausting. But when you make decisions from abundance, you don't just get more, you get freedom. You stop performing. You start choosing. You stop proving. You start building. And it begins by calling out the lie that more effort always equals more value. Sometimes, the most powerful move isn't to grind harder, it's to walk away from what no longer aligns. Not with anger, but with clarity. Scarcity will try to convince you that walking away is failure. It's not. It's faith. Because once you stop bowing to lack, you begin to rise into leadership. Scarcity isn't just lack, it's the belief that there won't be enough. This belief drives short-term decisions that sabotage long-term growth. Choosing from abundance, even in small ways, breaks the scarcity cycle. Where in your life are you settling out of fear that nothing better will come? Say no today to one thing that drains you, underpays you, or disrespects your value. Make room for better. Chapter 6. Rethink work. Work isn't the enemy. But how you relate to it might be. Most people were taught to worship hustle, to wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. The earlier you start, the later you stay, the more worthy you must be. But if that were true, the hardest workers would be the wealthiest. And they're not. That's because hustle, without alignment, is just well-disguised panic. Work, when rooted in fear, becomes punishment. You overbook, overdeliver, and underreceive. You confuse motion with progress. You stay busy to avoid confronting the question that terrifies the scarcity mindset. What if working harder isn't the answer? It rarely is. Discipline is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters, repeatedly, intentionally, without emotional bargaining. The wealthiest people don't just work hard. They work clean. They're clear on what moves the needle and ruthless about cutting what doesn't. That's not laziness. That's leverage. Leverage is how you multiply time. It's how one person can create what another can't in 10 years. It's not about being superhuman. It's about refusing to spend your energy solving the wrong problems. The scarcity mindset says, "I can't afford to slow down." The abundance mindset asks, "Can I afford to keep doing things this way?" That question is a filter. It separates activity from effectiveness. You weren't designed to grind. You were designed to grow. And growth requires rest, reflection, and boundaries. Without those, you're not building wealth, you're bleeding energy. Reframing your relationship with work doesn't mean slacking. It means elevating your standard. It means moving from frantic effort to focused execution. That shift starts with the identity behind the action. People anchored in scarcity overwork to prove they're enough. People aligned with wealth work to express who they are, not to validate it. That's the difference between effort and embodiment. Embodied workers don't say yes to everything. They're not addicted to being needed. They build systems, not just tasks. They protect their peak hours. They say no faster. Not because they're rigid, but because they respect the energy that drives their results. And when they work, they're fully present. This is what creates flow, where time disappears, creativity peaks, and results multiply. Flow isn't random. It's cultivated by removing distractions, saying no to low-leverage work, and aligning tasks with your natural rhythm. Research from McKinsey found that top performers in flow are 5 times more productive than those outside it. 5 times. Not from working more, but from working differently. That's the secret most hustle culture won't tell you. It's not about how much you can squeeze into your schedule. It's about how often you're operating in alignment with your zone of genius. The goal isn't to escape work. It's to elevate it. To stop seeing it as a cage and start using it as a canvas. To stop measuring value by effort and start measuring by effectiveness. You don't build wealth by doing more. You build it by doing right. When your work flows from clarity instead of chaos, your results speak louder than your hours. And the right opportunities begin to find their way to your door, not because you chased them, but because your discipline created space for them to land. You don't need to hustle to prove you're serious. You need to align to prove you're ready. Hustle without alignment creates burnout, not breakthroughs. Wealthy people work with focus, boundaries, and leverage, not just effort. True productivity comes from clarity, not constant motion. Are you working to express your value or to prove it? Audit your schedule today. Cut or delegate one task that keeps you busy but isn't moving you forward. Reclaim that energy. Chapter 7: Time, Energy, and Decision-Making of the Wealthy. Time is the only currency you can't earn back. Yet most people spend it like loose change, scattered, unconscious, and easily stolen by distraction. Wealthy individuals don't just manage time, they honor it. They treat it as the gatekeeper of everything else: energy, impact, and ultimately freedom. But it's not just about rigid scheduling or color-coded calendars. It's about decisions. Wealthy people make fewer, faster, and more aligned decisions. Not because they're smarter, but because they've clarified their values. Every yes is filtered through a deeper why. They don't entertain chaos in the name of opportunity. Poor decision-making isn't usually a lack of knowledge. It's a symptom of scattered energy. When you're exhausted, overcommit, and reactive, you default to what's easy, not what's right. That's how people stay stuck, repeating patterns that feel familiar but produce no progress. Wealthy people protect their energy with precision. They don't give it to everyone. They don't confuse access with entitlement. They understand that every conversation, task, or commitment carries an energetic cost. And if you keep spending without replenishing, you go bankrupt, even if your calendar is full. Think of your time and energy like a vault. What you allow inside either multiplies your power or drains it. Wealthy people curate their environment, who they talk to, what they consume, and when they work, based on energetic return, not just social obligation. This discipline shows up in their decisions. They don't overthink every move. They don't ask 10 people for permission. They trust their instincts, because their instincts are trained through clarity. They've removed the noise. Decision fatigue is real. Studies from Columbia University reveal that the more decisions you make in a day, the lower the quality becomes over time. That's why wealthy individuals automate the trivial. They simplify the non-essential. They reserve their mental bandwidth for what matters. But this clarity isn't reserved for billionaires. It's a mindset available to anyone who's willing to slow down and decide with intention. You start by asking better questions. Instead of, "Can I fit this in?" ask, "Does this move me forward?" Instead of, "What will they think if I say no?" ask, "What does saying yes cost me?" Instead of, "What's the safest option?" ask, "What aligns with my highest standard?" This recalibration takes courage. It means disappointing people who benefit from your disorganization. It means walking away from urgency addiction. It means choosing long-term peace over short-term approval. But the payoff is sovereignty. You begin to make decisions that honor your future, not just your feelings. You choose with your values, not your wounds. You protect your mornings like sacred ground. You end your days with energy left in the tank, not because you did less, but because you did what mattered. Time, energy, and decisions aren't separate. They form a loop. How you spend your time affects your energy. Your energy influences your clarity. Your clarity shapes your decisions. And those decisions build your life. Wealth isn't just about money. It's about being rich in control of your calendar, your energy, your yes and your no. You can't master time until you master choice. And choice begins the moment you stop reacting and start deciding from alignment. Wealthy people don't just manage time, they protect energy and simplify decisions. Scattered energy leads to poor choices. Clarity leads to power. Your calendar is a reflection of your values and self-respect. What decision are you avoiding because it would force you to honor your time and energy differently? Eliminate or delegate one recurring task this week that drains you but doesn't move you forward. Use that space to choose powerfully. Chapter 8. Your environment is a mirror. Look around. Everything in your environment is quietly reinforcing who you believe you are. Your home, your workspace, your digital life, your relationships, they're not just background. They're feedback loops. They reflect your current self-concept and reinforce your emotional baseline. Most people try to upgrade their mindset while living in spaces that contradict it. This is why change often feels impossible. You try to think like wealth while surrounded by clutter, chaos, or people who doubt growth. It's like planting seeds in contaminated soil. The intention may be strong, but the environment doesn't support transformation. Wealthy individuals understand this. They curate their space like a strategy. They're intentional about what gets access to their mind, body, and attention. Their environments aren't accidental, they're aligned. The science agrees. Behavioral design expert Dr. B.J. Fogg found that environment often drives behavior more than motivation. It's not willpower that sustains new habits, it's context. If you want to become someone new, you must put yourself in spaces that reflect that identity back to you. That starts with your physical space. Is it clean or chaotic? Designed for clarity or distraction? The way you treat your surroundings trains your brain to expect order, or tolerate disorder. If every surface is stacked with undone decisions, don't be surprised if your thinking feels cluttered too. Then there's your digital space. Endless notifications. Open tabs. Unfiltered consumption. Each piece pulling at your focus, fracturing your ability to think deeply. Wealthy people don't just protect their time, they defend their attention. Because attention is the front door to energy. And energy is the engine of wealth. But the most powerful part of your environment is the people in it. Relationships are mirrors. They reflect your standards, your expectations, your beliefs about what's possible. If you're constantly around people who play small, mock ambition, or normalize dysfunction, you will unconsciously recalibrate to match. You don't rise in a vacuum. You rise in community. That's why the fastest way to upgrade your mindset is to upgrade your proximity. Get around people who talk in solutions, not problems. Who challenge your excuses, not accommodate them. Who live at the level you say you want. This isn't about elitism. It's about resonance. You can't think like wealth if everyone around you is defending lack. Their fears become your hesitation. Their limits become your logic. Their comfort zone becomes your ceiling. So you must decide what kind of mirror you want to stand in front of every day. One that reflects who you've been, or one that reflects who you're becoming. This shift is uncomfortable at first. Reorganizing your space, muting digital noise, setting boundaries in relationships, it feels unnatural. That's because it is unnatural to someone who's still identifying with their former self. But if you want new results, you need new reinforcement. And your environment will either become your excuse or your advantage. Audit it all. The desk. The inbox. The calendar. The conversations. Every part of your environment is either anchoring you or elevating you. There is no neutral ground. You don't need perfection. You need alignment. Small upgrades done consistently change what you tolerate. And over time, that changes what you attract. Because when your surroundings reflect wealth, your actions begin to align with it. And alignment attracts everything chasing you back. Your environment is a reflection of your self-identity and beliefs. Physical space, digital space, and relationships all influence your frequency. Change your surroundings to reinforce the mindset you want, not the one you're trying to escape. What part of your current environment feels most misaligned with the identity you're stepping into? Choose one area, physical, digital, or relational, and declutter or upgrade it today. Let it reflect your next level. Chapter 9. Self-worth and net worth. Money follows belief. Not belief in the market. Not belief in a system. Belief in self. That's the hidden link between self-worth and net worth. People want financial breakthroughs, but they're trying to receive from a place of internal poverty. They build funnels, pitch services, and chase visibility, while secretly questioning whether they deserve what they're asking for. And wealth doesn't just listen to what you say. It responds to what you believe. Low self-worth speaks in subtle ways. You lower your rates before anyone pushes back. You apologize for charging at all. You overdeliver to feel valuable. You hesitate to follow up because rejection feels personal. None of it looks like self-sabotage on the surface, but the root is always the same: I don't think I'm enough. That belief creates a glass ceiling. You can't outperform your self-concept. If you believe you're unworthy, every decision will bend to reinforce it. You'll tolerate disrespect. You'll avoid visibility. You'll pick safe over scalable. But raise your self-worth, and your financial capacity expands with it. That's not motivational fluff. That's psychology. Studies in behavioral finance show that self-esteem directly influences earning potential. People with higher self-regard negotiate more, take smarter risks, and recover faster from failure. Their external world reflects their internal permission. Wealthy individuals don't wait to feel worthy. They decide they are. That decision becomes the filter for everything: who they work with, what they charge, how they carry themselves in a room. They don't need to prove anything. They walk in the proof. Self-worth isn't arrogance. It's ownership. It's recognizing that your value isn't measured in applause or acceptance, but in how you treat yourself when no one's watching. This is why someone with less talent but more self-belief will out-earn, outgrow, and outlast someone with more skill but constant self-doubt. The market rewards confidence, not because confidence guarantees quality, but because confidence communicates trust. And trust is currency. The irony is that most people wait for external validation to raise their prices or raise their hand. They hope money will solve the inner void. But it never does. It only amplifies what's already there. If you feel small now, more money will make you feel like a fraud. If you feel grounded now, more money will magnify your impact. So the work is internal first. You build self-worth by keeping promises to yourself. By setting boundaries you once avoided. By celebrating your wins instead of minimizing them. By refusing to let your past define your price tag. You build it by standing tall in rooms where you once shrunk. By speaking with clarity, not apology. By deciding that your presence is the value, not just the results you produce. Because wealth isn't just about assets. It's about alignment. And nothing aligns faster than a person who knows their worth. That kind of person doesn't chase. They choose. They don't hustle for scraps. They position for overflow. And when they speak, the room adjusts. You don't become wealthy by waiting to be picked. You become wealthy by realizing you already were, and moving accordingly. Self-worth sets the ceiling for your net worth. Low self-worth quietly sabotages earning, pricing, and positioning. Owning your value shifts the way money responds to you. Where in your life are you undercharging, over-explaining, or playing small to feel accepted? Raise one standard today: your price, your posture, or your boundaries. Let your actions speak your worth. Chapter 10: Becoming a Vessel. Water doesn't cling to the container. It takes its shape. Wealth is the same. It flows to where it has room, to where it's welcomed, respected, and ready to be used with purpose. And for that, you must become a vessel, not a vault. Most people try to hoard wealth. They grip it. Fear losing it. Obsess over keeping it. And in doing so, they block the very flow they're trying to attract. Because money doesn't respond to fear. It responds to stewardship. Being a vessel means you're not just holding wealth, you're moving it. Directing it. Using it to create more life, more freedom, more impact. A vessel is strong enough to contain abundance, but open enough to let it circulate. This is the quiet truth most never learn: receiving money is not the hard part. Holding it without losing yourself is. And that requires identity, clarity, and structure. Without those, people win the lottery and go broke. Athletes earn millions and end up bankrupt. Entrepreneurs hit 7 figures and sabotage it within a year. Because income is a mirror. If your mindset is scarcity and your habits are disorganized, more money only exposes that faster. The leaks get louder. The cracks spread wider. And everything that was hidden becomes visible. But when you think like a vessel, you prepare in advance. You create systems. You budget without fear. You invest without ego. You build teams, not just empires. You prioritize sustainability over speed. Wealth becomes less about appearance, more about capacity. That shift changes your relationship with giving, too. Scarcity says, I'll give when I have more. Abundance says, giving makes me more. Because every time you give, your time, money, energy, you're declaring trust. You're saying, I know this isn't the last opportunity. I know I'm not running out. Wealthy people give differently. Not from guilt, but from alignment. They don't use generosity to perform. They use it to extend. They understand that money in motion multiplies. When held in fear, it stagnates. When moved in purpose, it expands. Becoming a vessel also means upgrading what you can hold. You stretch your tolerance for visibility, responsibility, and overflow. That means learning how to say no to good so you can say yes to great. Letting go of outdated models. Delegating what drains you. Choosing vision over control. The vessel mindset is strategic. It asks, what would someone building generational wealth do with this opportunity? Not, how can I make this quick win feel safe? It sees further. It builds deeper. You're not just here to receive money. You're here to circulate wisdom. To model what aligned wealth looks like. To shift your family tree. To be the one who chose differently, not out of luck, but out of clarity. And clarity compounds. You don't need to become someone else to hold more. You need to become more of who you already are, with less fear, more order, and higher standards. You are the container. You are the current. You are the circulation. And when you step fully into that identity, you don't just attract wealth, you create the conditions for it to stay, grow, and multiply through you. Wealth flows through those who are prepared to hold and circulate it. A vessel mindset builds systems, gives from alignment, and thinks long-term. You don't chase wealth, you expand your capacity to hold and direct it. Where have you been trying to control wealth instead of preparing to contain and multiply it? Create one financial system today, a giving plan, a savings rule, or an investment habit that reflects your capacity to be a vessel, not a vault. Chapter 11. Live the alignment. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. This is where the shift becomes permanent, not through knowledge, but through embodiment. Not by adding more, but by living in full alignment with what you've already learned. Alignment is when your thoughts, words, actions, and energy all speak the same truth. No contradictions. No double lives. No hoping for abundance while operating from fear. No setting big goals while living in small patterns. Most people don't fail because they lack strategy. They fail because their behavior doesn't match their identity. They talk like expansion but choose like contraction. They visualize millions and tolerate misalignment. That gap becomes the block. To live in alignment, you must remove the gap. That means no more rehearsing scarcity in your mind while preaching abundance in your affirmations. No more apologizing for your boundaries. No more shrinking to stay accepted. Wealth flows when you no longer perform for it, when you simply are the version of yourself that receives it naturally. Living the alignment is about consistency. It's about showing up as the wealthiest version of you, not just when it's easy or visible, but especially when no one's watching. It's choosing the identity over the impulse. The standard over the shortcut. The future over the familiar. It will feel uncomfortable at times. Alignment always does. Because the old self will beg to be reinstated. It will whisper familiar lies. Play it safe. Tone it down. Wait a little longer. But the aligned self doesn't wait. It moves with clarity. This clarity shows up in small decisions. You'll walk differently into rooms. You'll pause before saying yes to misaligned opportunities. You'll speak up when it matters. You'll act from abundance, not to impress, but because it's your default frequency now. And others will notice. Not because you're louder, but because your presence speaks before you do. That's what alignment creates. Silent certainty. Grounded conviction. An energy that doesn't chase, doesn't convince, doesn't need validation. You didn't read this book just to understand wealth. You read it to become wealth. And becoming is a lifestyle. It's not a one-time declaration. It's not a goal you hit. It's a rhythm you live in. There is no arrival point. There is only deeper alignment. Every day, you'll have a choice, to live from your old identity or your upgraded one. To repeat or to rise. And you won't always feel ready, but you'll be equipped. Because now you know. You know that chasing repels and becoming attracts. That mindset sets the limit. That wealth is a frequency. That scarcity is a trap. That discipline is greater than grind. That your time and energy are sacred. That your environment is shaping you. That self-worth determines how money sees you. That you're not just here to collect wealth, you're here to circulate it. And now, you know that alignment is the real finish line. Not to impress the world, but to meet yourself fully. The most powerful version of you has always been waiting. Not out there. Within. You don't have to prove it. You just have to live it. Alignment is when identity, behavior, and energy speak the same language. Living like wealth means consistency, clarity, and no longer negotiating with fear. You're not chasing abundance anymore. You're embodying it. What part of your life still reflects an old identity, and what aligned action will replace it? Decide one habit, boundary, or behavior to fully embody today, not for results, but because it reflects who you already are. Live from that truth. Take care and be well.